Welcome to another Money Morning Routine. Okay, it's a big day. Closed out my budget for March and we're starting April. So if you're closing out a current tracking period, it means you're starting another tracking period. So not only do we have to make sure we're closing out this one from March, we also have to make sure we're prepared and we're starting April correctly. So let's go over this. The first thing that I did was I went through my March budget and filled out my actual column. Now, I'm going to be putting up on the screen right now, I have a whole video going over the difference between your budget amounts, your budget spending versus actual spending. Okay, there's a big reason why I have the actual column separate from the budget column on all of my budget worksheets. You have to understand the difference between budget spending and actual spending, because at the end of the day, you have to decide, well, if there's a difference, what are you going to do with it? If you're in the negative, there's a negative difference, we got to tweak some things, fix some things. If there's a surplus difference, then we have to figure out what we want to do with that money. So make sure you watch that video. So I filled in the actual column, okay? Now, when I fill out my actual column, you can see down here in the bottom, what actually ended up happening, we did a rollover of some unused cash into April, $5 challenge, 100 envelope challenge, and other savings challenges that I ended up actually doing as part of my spending that I added to my budget here. Okay, let's talk about closing down March. First step, I made sure my spending was completely updated and done correctly. Now, a lot of the times people come to me, remember, when I say closing out your budget, what does that mean? It just means we're looking at our income versus our spending. And if we do things correctly, right, we're tracking our money and our spending correctly, income minus expenses should equal zero. That's the goal. So a lot of people, they say, well, Miko, I got to closing out my budget, which I use the monthly budget category breakdown. And they say, well, my income, my inflow for the month didn't match my expenses. That means that there is an issue somewhere in your tracking. Sometimes it takes months to work those things out, to figure those things out. Okay, there's a lot of different things that could be messing with getting your income minus your expenses being off. So give yourself grace there. I have a lot of amazing community members who have been with me since 2016, 2017, who are still working on this process, and that's okay. The goal here is awareness. Sometimes it's not about doing it 100% correctly, right? You might still be off in your numbers, but you have awareness. You have more knowledge about your finances and your spending than you did when you weren't doing this. That's the goal. We can always work on perfecting this process and getting the income and your expenses to match as we go along. Keep at it. Don't be discouraged with it. Okay, so let's talk about this very quickly. Now, because I use the highlighter method, every single one of my budget categories has a color. So if I go back to my expense trackers, all I do when I literally close out my budget, I literally just add up my colors. I go through and add up all the teal. I go through and add up all the purple, all the orange. And then I place it here in my monthly spent column. Okay. Now, a couple videos ago, I did where to come up with your monthly budget numbers. Watch that video. I'll pop it up on the screen right now. So make sure you watch that if you're wondering how to get these monthly budget numbers. But the monthly spent is what you currently spent in March, the month you are closing out. Okay. Let's talk about inflow. Now, when I don't do just income. I call it inflow for the month. So my inflow includes my starting balance. This is the balance that I had in my checking account the day I started my tracking period for March. Earned income, which is my paycheck. Other income includes things I might sell on Mercari. Maybe it's egg sales from the farm. Okay, anything outside of my W-2 paycheck. Savings used. Am I using any savings for spending in this current tracking period that I saved in previous tracking periods? That equals my total monthly inflow. Now you can see that's not just my paycheck. That includes many different things. Total monthly inflow, $13,649. Where did my money go in March? I'm going to be doing a whole reel about this on my Instagram, but let's quickly go through it. If it's in green, I overspent, if it's in green, I underspent. I was under my budget. If it was red, I was over my budget. So let's go over some of the things that I was over budget. So household, obviously. Usually, now technically you could say, well, Miko, you technically knew you were going to be paying your property taxes, your first payment for your property taxes. I did. I'm not technically over household. Now, usually my household expenses is about $1,250 a month, but because I had my first payment for my property taxes for $5,571, I was over what I normally pay. Now, technically, because I knew about it, some would argue that I'm actually not over budget. Insurance, I was over by $17 by adding that roadside assistance. And then James, I was over by $346. Remember, the great thing about this, if you see that you're over by such a huge, you're like, geez, what is going on here? This is about awareness, right? Go back to your expense tracker. So I can go, oh my gosh, I was over $346 for James. What the heck did I spend it on? I can go back to my expense trackers and look, oh, right here, $297. A big part of that, $297 was spent at Kohl's. We spent it at Kohl's right here for his clothes. Some clothes that were not in, I didn't plan for it. So you can use your expense trackers to kind of give you the answers if you forgot. Now I was over 35 for pets, that's true because Chewy was a little more expensive for me this month. And then I'm over in savings, which you always want to be over in savings. I always try to save about $1,800 a month, but I saved $2,544 this month, which is really big. I was under budget in all the green ones. So I was under budget in food, which is always a goal of mine, which is really good. I spent a total of $786 on food, $128 in health and beauty, $596 on James, $285 on pets. Also, look at my eating out. Now, technically, okay, there was some days I forgot what I ate out or what I ate, right? But for the most part, my eating out has gotten significantly better. I believe, let's go back to January. Oh, January wasn't that bad either. All the red spots were January. Let's go to February. Did I fill out February? I'm not the best at always filling out my trackers. Oh, February wasn't that bad either. So March meal plan, eating out. Okay, so that's closing out my budget. Let's talk about starting. Remember, once we close out one tracking period, we're starting another one. Okay, let's go back to my expense trackers. I want to explain this is all this. This is probably the number one thing that people get wrong when they're tracking their spending. Mm-hmm. You can see at the end of my tracking period today, when I closed out my budget, I had $712.38 in my checking account. What does that tell you? That's not just the ending balance of your checking account. That is now your starting balance for your new tracking period. Go to April. If I go to April and I go to my expense trackers, guess what I have? My starting balance now for April is the $712.38, which is what I have in my checking account right now today when I close out my March tracking period. Let's talk about something else. Another thing that is included in my starting balance, which you don't normally see. I got the question, Kumiko, can you please show what it looks like in your workbook, in your expense trackers, when you roll over unused cash to the next tracking period? Okay. Remember, so in March, let me get my stuff out. I had money left in my cash envelopes that I didn't spend, $174 to be exact. Okay, here's the cash right here. I decided I want to use it for some vacation spending that I have coming up in April, for a vacation in April. So here's what it looks like. Okay, March, it's going to show up not on your expense trackers. You're going to show that rollover right here. When you are doing your monthly budget category breakdown, you're going to total your monthly spending, but then you have to make sure that you include your starting balance in this calculation. It's not only what you spent for the month, It's what you still have in your checking account that you're carrying over to the next tracking period, which is April for me. 886. Well, you might be, Miko, where are you getting that 886? Well, part of it is the cash that I'm rolling over into April, right? And what I have sitting in my checking account. Well, we just said, we looked at my expense trackers. All right, the 712 is sitting in my checking account plus the 174 equals 886. If I do that, my inflow and my expenses match. Don't forget to include your starting balance in this calculation. That might be another reason why you might be off with your calculations. So it's also going to show up. Guess what I had to redo? My April budget. Roll over from March. It's up here in my inflow, 174. That's me using that money. Okay, right here, me using this cash as well. It is part of now my vacation budget. Now, instead of $2,000, it's $2,174 because I've added this small cash amount for spending. So it's in my budget. So here it is, inflow into my life, and rolling it over from March into April. And then here's me spending it. So that was another thing that I don't usually do, but I really wanted to show that because I got that question. All right, so let's talk about other things. So got my 174. I have my teller slip. This is the cash that I'm pulling out for April for spending. Okay, and here are my new cash envelopes ready to go for spending. I have beauty, which I gave myself a $100 budget. Food is my $900 budget. Pets, I have a $50 budget. Miscellaneous is my $50 budget. Household is my $100 budget, and fun is $110. Now, I did the $110 just because we are hosting our first ever Dempsey Easter egg hunt for friends. Me and my husband really hope to turn this into more of a community experience with our community here close to the house, friends and family. This year, I am filling 300 eggs with 12 surprise golden eggs on our acreage, our 20 acres. It's not going to be on the full 20 acres, probably, a little portion of our back acreage property. My husband's going to take the four-wheeler out and scatter the eggs out. And I'm also making cupcakes for all the kids. I got Easter egg baskets for all the kids that don't have any. It's really going to be a really special event. You can see I have budgeted here $200 for Easter. I am buying those Easter eggs and anything else that I need this week before we go on vacation next week, so I can start filling all of those eggs. 300 is what we're starting with. We'll probably be in the thousands by next year. We already have 25 people coming this year, which is really, really great. People ask me, hold on. Okay. All right. So I don't usually show my face on these Monday morning routines, but I really want to explain this because it's really important to me. So I get a lot of questions like, Miko, your household expenses are so expensive because I have a bigger house. We have a 7,000 square foot home. We have 20 acres property. And so yes, our property taxes are expensive. Our utilities are expensive because we have a larger home that we have to heat, right? We have a pool, we have a hot tub, we have an outdoor kitchen, outdoor bathroom and locker room area. So people ask me like, is it worth it? You wouldn't have all these monthly expenses if you didn't have such a large home. When I knew I wanted to buy my first house, one of the things I always imagined for my dream was having my house be the central community and family and friend gathering place. I really wanted my home to be the gathering place, not just for friends and family, but for my children. I wanted to be the house where my children wanted to be at, where they wanted to invite all their friends, right? And part of that comes from, I was a teenager once. I know what it's like. And I wanted this to be the house my kids would want to be at. So I knew where they were, right? If you're a mom, you know what I mean. And so the reason being is I did not come from a very big family. And so my friends are my family. It's really important to know about me. My friends are my family. We do a Christmas white elephant Christmas exchange every year with our friends. We do a Friendsgiving every year with our friends. We do the Super Bowl here with all of our friends. We are constantly hosting, I feel like at least 3 to 4 times a month. And it's even more during the summer because we have the pool. When I thought about buying my dream home, I knew that going into it, that this wasn't just a house to house just me, Chris, and my son at the time. It was for one, being able to grow our family and expand our family if we wanted to do that, but also being the gathering place for everyone in our lives and more. Is it worth it to me to have all these household expenses? I remember I got a comment on one of my recent Instagram posts asking, is it worth it? Absolutely it is to me. It depends on who you are and what you want for your life, what you want your life to look like, the memories you want to have, who you want to share it with. It all plays into that. When I walked through the front door of this house before I bought it, I immediately knew. Not only did it remind me of the farm that I grew up on, it had all the same trees. It just really brought me back home. It made me feel very comfortable, very at peace, very warm. But to also have it be like our main floor has no walls. It's crazy. Our main floor has no walls. It's our living room and our kitchen, our bathroom, and my office. The only place that has walls is my office. The rest it's one ginormous, huge open room, and I love it because it's meant for gathering. It's meant for entertaining. So is it worth it to me? Absolutely. Because it's at that point, it's no longer just about the home and the household expenses. It's about the life that I want to live, the memories that I'm making, and who I get to share it with, and what that looks like in my life, prioritizing my friendships and my relationships. Because when you come from a really, really small family, friendships are really, really special. And especially after losing my mom, being able for this house and our family to be the gathering place for so many. We have an open door policy here at the house, meaning I am a true believer. I don't care who you are. No one should be spending the holidays alone. I will not have it. If I know a friend or someone in my life is spending the holidays alone, we have a full open door policy. Come on over. I will make you a home cooked meal. I will include you in my family. I will treat you like one of my own because no one deserves to spend the holidays alone. And that has made for some really big gatherings for the holidays. Last year for Christmas, we had 3 friends who were, didn't have family or anybody over. So we had them and we hosted them here at the house, which was, this is what I want to do with my life, if that makes sense. So is it worth it? Long answer, absolutely. So back to my budget workbook. Okay, so April, I prep my expense trackers, 7/12/38 for my checking for my starting balance. That 174 has to be included up here on your expense tracker for your cash. That has to be there. Also, I have to write in my month here and get that done. Also, another thing that I need to get done is I need to fill out my monthly meal plan and get that done today. But for the most part, everything's ready for me to go down to the bank today, pull out cash for my envelopes, do my paycheck. I'm saving this for my wallet for cash spending for the vacation. And I have my handy dandy teller slip for my envelopes, and that is my Monday morning routine.